Hello, Grumpy Old Fart here. I promised I was going to share some stories from old D&D games that I played, and my wife and son are both tired of hearing them, so I figured I'd share them with you guys. This particular one is called "Have Fun Storming the Castle," and that's a line from Princess Bride because I didn't mean for it to fit so well, but darn it, it does. I got to give you a little bit of context here. I started playing D&D back in the 70s. I started running it in the 80s. Well, in the late 90s, this is years ago, I agreed to play in a game with this guy that I'd never played in this game before. And he kept bugging me. Oh, you got to come play. And I said, okay, fine, I'll play. And it's not that I didn't want to. It was more like I'd never had the opportunity because I was running several games on my own. Plus, I was working full time, so there's only 24 hours in a day, So finally, I agreed, and I figured time to do it. Well, as luck would have it, of course, I had to work late, so I showed up late, and I had my character, and I was ready to play, and he said, "Hey, Lynn, I need you to come in the other room." And I said, "Okay." So he pulls me over there and he says, "Man, I got this massive migraine. I don't feel good. I'm going to go lie down. Do you think you could run the game tonight?" And I said, "Well, okay, I don't know what's going on. I don't know anything, any of the backstory or anything." And he goes, "Well, that's okay. They're trying to attack a castle tonight." And right then, boom, a red flag went up. And I said, "Okay, do you have the defenses?" And he goes, "Well, yeah." And he pulled out this thick notebook and he's opening it and he's showing me all the defenses of his castle. And he had, he had gotten pictures of the floor plans of a castle from England, a real castle. And this thing was huge. Excuse me. And it had everything a castle should have. It had multiple walls. It had portcullises, thick gates, towers. It had murder holes set in the top of above the entryways. I mean, it was just everything you could imagine was there. And he he said, "Man, I got to get him through this tonight, otherwise we won't be ready for next week." And I said, "Well, all right, if you want me to, I will." And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." And I asked him, I said, "Well, how how vicious do you want me to be?" And this was his quote. I remember it distinctly. He said, quote, "Kill them if you can." Now, I'm not much of a killer dungeon master. I don't like killing off players unless they do something there's players that just they're begging to die, but they don't play well. They make bad decisions, and they think because the game master won't kill them off if they do stupid things. Well, I don't mind killing off a character. I just don't like it. I'll do it if it's necessary, but the player really has to do something stupid. Gee, you're down to 4 hit points, and you barely touched the monster. It's time to get the hell out of dodge. And no, I'm going to stay and fight. Well, okay, if you die, then you die. That kind of thing. But he actually said, "Kill them if you can." I said, "All right, it's your game." So I picked up the notebook and I walked into the other room where they were holding the game, and I looked around and I didn't recognize a damn one of those people except one, my friend Kevin. Okay, and Kevin was sitting in the back and he saw me come in. He says, "Hey, Lynn, how you doing?" And I said, "Pretty good." And Danny, or the guy, came in behind me and he says, I'm gonna let Lynn run this particular part of the castle. I'm not feeling well. I'm gonna go ahead and go lie down." And immediately Kevin's eyes got wide because he'd played with me before. So the other guy left, and I sat down and I'm looking, and I pull my dice up, and the other players were looking at me and kind of smirking because they didn't think, they'd never played with me before. They didn't know me. And I looked up, and Kevin was nudging the guy next to me, and I said, we gotta rethink this. And "Oh no, we'll be all right. We're gonna get it. I said, "All right, now right off the bat, I'm gonna tell you guys, I'm sorry." He gave me the layout of this castle, and he told me to play it as real as possible, and to kill you if I can. That's what he said. And everybody started laughing. And Kevin goes, you know. So, imagine the scene. Broad daylight. Noon. There's a castle sitting on an island. There's a river around. Not so much a river, but a thick moat that joins to a river. A wide moat. Very deep. And there's a bridge across it, but you can raise it. It's called, a drawbridge. So you can raise it and, And so the group comes charging across this big field. And the guards are standing there going, hey, look at those guys. And they're charging across this field. And they're like, those guys don't look friendly. And they're, we're going to get him, And the guards are like, maybe we should shut the bridge. Pull up the drawbridge and shut the gate. And so they go inside and they're raising the bridge. Well, one of the faster players, made it to the drawbridge, and he jumped up and he grabbed it and pulled it up. He pulls out his dagger and he cuts one side, and he's sliding over and he's cutting the other side. And he gets the bridge to come down. But when it come down, it landed on him and killed him. The other players jumped onto the bridge, right on top of him, and started heading for the main gate. Well, of course, they slammed the main gate down. The main gate is these poles, these big, thick logs, and they're joined together by boards in the back. And in the front, they've got this big, thick, like half-inch thick iron plate riveted to the front of these logs. Excuse me. Now, here's the problem with that. All the while, as soon as the guards came in, archers on the top started pelting these guys with arrows. So, but between the time the guards went in and they're raising the drawbridge, and those guys are out there, and the guys up there cutting they're all getting pelted with arrows. Just, And so they make it into the gate, and they can't figure out how to get into the gate. It's got that big thick plate on the front, and their weapons won't go through it, and they have no idea what to do. So one of them says, we need a battering ram. Let's go get a battering ram. So they run back across the bridge where the archers can see them, and they're pelting them with arrows again. And they run around the side of the castle, and they're chopping down a tree for a battering ram. And all the while, the archers are sitting there pelting them with arrows. By this point, the group's about half dead. The one guy at the drawbridge is dead, and I think 2 others are down. And so they get this tree cut down, and they're carrying it back around to the front. All the while, the archers are pelting them with arrows. And they get around to the front, and just as they're getting ready to start trying to batter this thing down, the people on the top of the gate over the gatehouse pour boiling oil down on them. Killed two of the party members were dead at that point. Kevin's character said, "Oh crap," turned and ran. And everybody said, "Oh, he's a coward, he's a coward." And as Kevin's running away, he yells over his shoulder, "Mind the torch," because he'd played with me before. And so they're in there, bam, 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 trying to get the gate down. And the guy up top drops the torch down. Oil burns, people. Kevin was the only survivor of that escapade. Everybody else died. And I made a lot of enemies in the gaming community that day. What can you do? You run it the way it's there. And I didn't even use all the defenses. They had I want to say 8,000 or 10,000 guys in there. I only used 1,000 of them. These people didn't have a plan, and all the while Kevin kept saying, "We need a better plan, people. We need a better plan," and they all ignored him. Kevin was the only one that survived because he ran away. I hate killing off players, player characters in any game, but sometimes when they do stupid things, sometimes it's necessary. They did not have fun storming the castle. You folks have a good night. God bless one and all.